Hello, Archie Dunlop here with Talking Astrology with Archie on Tuesday, August the 8th, 2023. Tomorrow is the 78th anniversary of the atomic bombing of Nagasaki. And I thought I'd look at this chart because, Nagasaki doesn't get the attention that Hiroshima does. Nagasaki was not the first atomic bomb ever exploded. Nagasaki was not the first atomic bomb exploded over a civilian target. So, it just hasn't perhaps got the attention that Hiroshima has got. And I wanted to look at the chart of the bombing of Nagasaki, which took place on August the 9th, 1945. Because it's not really an easy chart. One wants to look at this chart and say, hey, something really terrible happened. This chart should make it, should show very immediately that something terrible happened. In the Hiroshima chart, yeah, we can see that. With Uranus exactly on the midheaven, as I've said several times recently, major signature of an atomic bomb. But with the Nagasaki chart, we don't get any of that. And so I want to look at it, and I am, mindful of this view, which I've expressed before, which I think the astrologer Terry Dyer said. I don't know whether he's still an astrologer. I'm not sure what he's doing at the moment. When I was editing the Harmonic Astrology newsletter, he wrote words to the effect that the definition of an astronomer is someone who looks into the skies and sometimes finds what he's looking for. The definition of an astrologer is someone who looks into a chart and always finds what they're looking for. So there's always a danger when we look at a horoscope, but we can find something in that horoscope. Particularly if we insist on using asteroids and Chiron and all that stuff. We can always find something. And so what I want to do is to look at a chart and be skeptical and accept, but if there's nothing there, if it's not amazing, if it doesn't show what I'm looking for, to be honest about it. At the same time, I want to find something. I want to find the signature. It should surely be there. So that's what I want to try and do with the Nagasaki chart. And as you will see, in doing this, I'm kind of making myself vulnerable to the very accusation that really I can find whatever I'm looking for, using in this case Witte's hypothetical planets. But anyway, before I look at the Nagasaki chart, I want to look at the planets for today, which is Tuesday, August the 8th, 2023. So let's go. Here we go. There we go. I found top right. I found a picture of the mushroom cloud over Nagasaki, not the mushroom cloud over Hiroshima. I don't know whether you can tell the difference. What's going on today? It's quite a nice day, I think, in the sense that we've got a conjunction between the moon and Jupiter in Taurus, and we have got a trine between the moon in Taurus and Mars in Virgo. So there's a lot of energy, a lot of action, but because it's Taurus Virgo, it's not crazy action. It's It's kind of sensible, hard work, getting things done. And, that Moon-Jupiter conjunction is extremely lucky, especially as the moon's in Taurus. I mean, the moon is exalted in Taurus. So, whatever we do, it can be successful. And with Moon trine Mars, we have got the energy to achieve to achieve what we need to achieve. So overall, I think it's a good day. I mean, this trine between these planets in Taurus and these Virgo planets, it's got a Mercury is involved in it as well. Mercury in Virgo. If you're an Earth sign, Taurus, Virgo, Capricorn, you might particularly benefit from this energy. But really, I think all of us can, regardless of our star sign. We've got the opportunity to get things done. It's a lucky day, and our activities, whatever they are, can be can be extremely successful. The important point here is not to think too much, because it's one of those days, a lot of days recently, where there are really no planets in air signs. There's nothing in Gemini, nothing in Libra, nothing in Aquarius. Okay, there's South Node in Libra, but that's about it. That is it. So don't think about it too much. Don't scatter your resources. Focus on one thing. Remember, Taurus is a very single-minded sign. It works best when it chooses one particular goal and it throws all its resources into achieving it. So I think that's what you need to do today. So as far as my forecast for the 12 signs are concerned, here they are. These are my forecasts for today, which is Tuesday, August the 8th, 2023. Aries, you value your freedom and you don't want to be restricted by material and financial trivia. But what appears to be trivial could be vital, and at every step you need to consider the financial impact. Only then can you move yourself into top gear. Indeed, once you're properly prepared, with the moon aspecting Mars, your ruler, you can achieve some amazing things. Taurus. The Taurus machine is fully switched on and you can grind forward towards your goals. It is not just about movement for the sake of it. You can be creative and imaginative, changing your approach to fit the circumstances. And in certain situations, your key move will be an act of surprise generosity. Gemini. Not everyone understands you. You might talk a lot, but you don't give much away. And under the surface, you do have a great deal of power, which sometimes you yourself don't recognize. But when the time is right, you can start exercising this power. And right now, it feels that your moment is very close. Cancer. You're starting to activate in a big way, and you're not satisfied with the status quo. And with the moon aspecting Jupiter and Mars, you can get your way through slow but constant pressure. However, if you want something done, I think you have to do it yourself. Other people just aren't up to the job. Leo, you need to develop the right relationship with money. In itself, money is not important, but your every action can improve your financial prospects. And you don't have to bust a gut to get results. Just use the prevailing energies in the right way, and in social situations, use persuasion rather than force. Virgo, you get another reminder about the importance of thinking about broad ideas rather than petty details. You want to expand your horizons, not restrict yourself to the ever-decreasing circles of life in a bunker. Talk to someone who lives thousands of miles away. They've got a perspective that is refreshing and perhaps revolutionary. Libra, watch people carefully. They are not as clever as they think they are, and without thinking, they could give away some important clues. And because of your sensitivity, which is currently on great form, you'll notice things that other people miss. But it is a time for discretion rather than shooting your mouth off. Scorpio, there is room for forgiveness. While it's true that the human personality is difficult to change, you have to consider the possibility that some people can learn from their mistakes. So be ready to give someone a second chance, and you'll soon see whether or not they have turned over a new leaf. Sagittarius, it's a busy day, and if you put in the work, you can accomplish a huge amount. Just remember that there are no guarantees that you'll be amused, and long periods of grinding boredom might be part of the deal. But if you keep pushing, I think it'll all be worth it, and your future reputation will be given a leg up. Capricorn, you continue to enjoy the benefits of a favourable aspect between the Moon and Jupiter, and also the Moon and Mars. The energy is really flowing, and the moment you step into the big wide world, you'll start seeing results. But ideally, you'll act in a natural way without trying to force things. Aquarius, there are things you don't want to do, perhaps because you're feeling tired, not just physically tired, but existentially tired. What is the point of it all? Surely it's just a waste of time. Yes, the more pointless a task, it seems that the more it grinds you down. But maybe it's the pointless tasks that can actually benefit you, but you won't find out until you try these tasks out. It's all about a series of lessons that you're in the process of learning. Pisces, you're in the middle of the action, but you're also quite distant from it, contradictory as that might sound. You're not completely enthusiastic, and you wonder where it's all leading. Perhaps you're being too detached and too intellectual. Instead, you should perhaps suspend your questioning and see where the whole thing leads you. So now I'm going to look at forecasting from the perspective of the I Ching. And as usual, I threw 3 coins in the air and I asked, what is Tuesday going to be like for visitors to my YouTube channel? So the first hexagram I got was hexagram 32, which is duration. And duration is about, pushing things through, trying to create something that is of lasting value. This is not just, a one-day wonder. You're trying to build something up that can last for weeks, months, years even. So in the first instance, we may be disappointed. We may be in a situation where we want fast results. We're in a hurry to get these fast results. We want to create something of lasting value, but we don't really want to put the time in. And because we don't want to put the time in, we're not going to be successful. I mean, at least that is a possibility. But so resists the temptation to be too hasty. So yeah, think about what's going on. Think about what is that area of your life where you're trying to create endurance, where you're trying to create something that can last a long time. Yes, you're in a hurry, but if you don't put in the work, you are not going to be able to build anything up. And the second line moves as well. And the second line suggests that this line here, that we might reach a stage where we're quite overwhelmed by it all. And we think, well, we're trying to create something, we're trying to make our life better, but are we up to the job? There may be a lot of self-doubt coming in, that really we just haven't got what it takes. And what the I Ching does here is it says, yeah, that is true. We've got big ideas about what we want, but we just don't have the resources to do it. Yet, the I Ching says we need to try our hardest. Even if we haven't got the resources, even if other people are just not prepared to help us, we've got to try our hardest. It's going to be tough and there are no guarantees, but it's a situation where we might not have any choice. And this hexagram 32, it does move. It moves to hexagram 55, which is abundance. So this would indicate that our efforts to create something of lasting value are going to be successful. We will break through and we'll be in a situation where, yeah, everything is there. But the I Ching kind of sees abundance as being a sort of high point of civilization. We have to enjoy it while it lasts. So, we are trying to create something of lasting value in duration. But given you've got abundance coming right after, the indication might be that really nothing lasts forever. So we can try our hardest to build something of lasting value, and we can get some success, abundance. But it says, the I Ching, it says, be not sad. I think something like the midday sun. The midday sun, this is where we're going. It's the peak of civilization. After midday, can only be decline towards sunset. Likewise with civilizations, no civilization lasts forever. Every civilization has its peak. So we just need to get a perspective on that. That doesn't mean we should give up, because we just have to understand the cycles that inevitably we're all in. You get every rise is followed by a decline. Every decline is followed by a rise. So we must do what we can. Build something that is as permanent as possible. But nothing is completely permanent, because in the end, everything goes. So that's the I Ching. I mean, I don't think the I Ching is too bad. I know it's, it sounds in places a little negative, but just remember this is the I Ching for today, and therefore there's a certain amount of exaggeration there and putting little bit too much significance into it, given it's only a reading for today. So now let's look at the horoscope of Nagasaki. Remember, I have an issue with its significance, and I might have to go into places that I don't really want to go. So before I look at this, so the Nagasaki chart, I'm going to first look at the Hiroshima chart just one more time and show why I thought the Hiroshima chart is just very simple, very easy to see how just incredible it is. This is the moment the bomb was dropped from the Enola Gay. You can see Uranus on the midheaven, top of the chart. Uranus rules uranium. It was a uranium bomb. That's all there is to be said. Top of the chart, the image of a bomber above Hiroshima. Everything is clear. Okay, I don't need to talk about that chart anymore. So let's now look at the Nagasaki chart. Remember, this was not a uranium bomb, it was a plutonium bomb. So here is the Nagasaki chart. So what do you think? I mean, we can always try to find something. You can see that all of the planets are above the horizon. Okay, that's kind of nice symbolism for an airburst atomic bomb. So that's okay. Here's the midheaven, 2539 Cancer. So okay, Saturn is the highest planet in the sky, but Pluto is pretty high. Pluto is not too far from the midheaven. So, I suppose you could say that Pluto is a natural ruler of plutonium. But, Pluto is not exactly on the midheaven. I would have liked to have seen Pluto absolutely there on the midheaven. So that's, I think that is not great. I don't think it's something where you can say, yeah, for sure, this shows an atomic bomb over Nagasaki. No, I don't think it does. By the way, the moon is at 2845 Leo. It's actually void of course. It's made its last aspect before leaving the sign. And very often when you start a project with the moon void of course in very late degrees, nothing comes of it. And I think this is actually what nearly happened with the Nagasaki bombing. Nagasaki wasn't actually the target. The plane went somewhere else, but there was too much cloud. So I can't remember the name of the city. It was another city. That was the target. Plane got there. Too much cloud. It had to find somewhere else. And when it got over Nagasaki, there was also cloud cover, but just at the last moment, there was a gap in the clouds and the plane was able to drop its bomb. So moon void of course almost indicated that it didn't happen, but unfortunately it did happen. So there's that. And don't forget, this happened only 3 days after. This happened 3 days after 3 days after Hiroshima. So the planets are quite similar. So anything else? Yeah, sure. Saturn. Okay, Saturn is kind of angular. Saturn's close to the midheaven, so you could say, well, Saturn is a difficult planet. Saturn on the midheaven. Yeah, okay, but it's again. You're not going to convince someone who's not into astrology that this is a chart, that really shows astrology really working. There's nothing very convincing here. Another thing that perhaps is worth considering, which kind of helps, is that if you look. There's Mars at 11 Gemini. There is Saturn at 18 Gemini. So the midpoint of Mars and Saturn is around 0 degrees Cancer, which is square Aries. So Aries is on the Mars-Saturn midpoint. So yeah, that fits. Aries is about a global event on the Mars-Saturn midpoint. So that fits this. That fits, this massive disaster, which Aries on a Mars-Saturn midpoint, a lot of people dying. Yeah, that fits. Although when I say it's a massive disaster, one might ask the question, is there any reason why the bombing of Nagasaki is special? Now, as I said, the bombing of Hiroshima is special because it was the first time an atomic bomb was used against a civilian target. The bombing in the first atomic bomb in New Mexico is special because obviously that's the first atomic bomb. But after that, we have to remember that the fire bombings of Tokyo, they killed more people than Hiroshima or Nagasaki. You could say, well, that these atomic bombs are just more of the same. Yes, there's something particularly horrible about dying in a nuclear explosion, but when you're dead, whether you've been killed with conventional explosives or nuclear explosives, it's the same kind of thing. You can see pictures of the Tokyo fire bombings. You can see charred bodies. You don't need you don't need atomic explosions to get charred bodies. So maybe we shouldn't actually expect there to be anything special there. I would say, well, I would still say something. It was a particularly special event. It was kind of the effective end of the Second World War. First time a plutonium bomb had been used against a civilian target. But as it stands, I still don't find it to be particularly impressive. Now, one difference between the Nagasaki chart and the Hiroshima chart is, if you look at the Hiroshima chart, there's the sun at 13 Leo, there's a moon at 18 Cancer. So it happened just before a new moon. So the moon was waning, was waning. Now, if you look at the Nagasaki chart, it's just after a new moon. So it is actually a different part of a different part of the lunar cycle. So I thought it might be quite interesting to look at the new moon just before the explosion, the atomic bombing of Nagasaki. So here we go. So this is for the day before, August the 8th, 1945 at 9:32 a.m. So this new moon is perhaps of some importance. You will notice that the new moon is at 15:06 Leo. Now, if you'd listened to my video yesterday, I'd mentioned that 15 degrees of the fixed signs represent the points where which are 45 degrees from the Aries point, or 135 degrees. So 15 fixed signs are real, in astrology, are real power points, because they aspect the Aries point either by semi-square, which is 45 degrees, or sesquiquadrate, which is 135 degrees. So you could say, okay, that might be important. And I said for the Nagasaki bombing that the Aries point was on the Mars-Saturn midpoint. You can see the Aries point here. Cancer is square Aries point. So Mars and Saturn there's still Aries on the Mars-Saturn midpoint. So this new moon was semi-square the Mars-Saturn midpoint. So if you've got a new moon semi-square the Mars-Saturn midpoint, you would expect that new moon to be quite unpleasant, to be about death and destruction and so on. But again, we could have seen that new moon and seen that it was semi-square the Mars-Saturn midpoint, but we would still have the question: where would it happen? It could happen anywhere in the world. Okay, if we'd been an astrologer in August 1945, we might have thought, well, the Second World War is now focused on Japan, so we might have expected something bad to have happened in Japan. We wouldn't have been privy to atomic secrets, okay, so we might not have known what was going to happen. But so, yeah, perhaps at the time we might have been able to focus on Japan through common sense. But still, there's nothing astrologically to indicate really anything special about Nagasaki. So it was at this stage where I thought, okay, well, we're going to have to start looking at the hypothetical planets. And again, I'm open to the criticism that I'm looking into a chart and just finding whatever I want to find. But hypothetical planets, it's kind of appropriate to look at the hypothetical planets for Nagasaki. Perhaps more appropriate than for Hiroshima, because Hiroshima was a uranium bomb. Uranium is an element found in nature. In nature there are very small parts in every piece of uranium-235, which is the isotope of uranium which is used in making atomic bombs. Plutonium is by and large a fake element. I mean, it's fake in the sense that it's completely man-made, as far as I understand it. I mean, okay, I think you can maybe find trace elements of trace particles of plutonium, of certain isotopes of plutonium in rock, but it's, to all intents and purposes, plutonium is a man-made element. So it's not so ridiculous to then think that we might want to look at the astrology of the Nagasaki bomb using man-made planets. Why not? So these planets, the hypothetical planets, were supposedly discovered by Alfred Witte, the German astrologer. And that's, I don't know, I probably need to make a video about answering the criticism of why on earth would one use planets that have been made up. I've got an explanation for it, but I'm not going to get into it now. So let's now make this chart a little more complicated, and let's go back to the Nagasaki chart and put in some hypothetical planets. So let's there we go. You will see then that Hades, I believe, was the second hypothetical planet to be discovered after Cupido. It's a planet of death, it's a planet of graveyards, it's a planet of garbage, it's a planet of criminality. And Hades is angular. So it is fitting that you have an angular Hades very close, fairly close to the descendant at the time of the Nagasaki bombing. It's not, although it's not exactly on the ascendant, it is making an exact aspect to the ascendant midheaven midpoint. Let me just show you what I mean. You probably can't see this, but the it's 6 minutes off a semi-square aspect to the ascendant midheaven midpoint, and this is a chart for when the bomb exploded. So having Hades within 6 arc minutes of the ascendant midheaven midpoint, I think that is quite powerful. Another planet to consider is Zeus. This is Zeus. It's a planet of weaponry. And so Zeus is on the Uranus ascendant midpoint. So here is Uranus, general planet of explosions. There's the ascendant at 23, 26 Libra, and Zeus is exactly on the Uranus ascendant midpoint. It's also making a square to the Uranus midheaven midpoint. So the key thing about the ascendant and the midheaven is that these are points which are unique to Nagasaki. But these planets, the sun, the moon, whatever, wherever you are in Japan, they'll be the same position at 11:02 a.m. But the ascendant and the midheaven will be in different positions. They are, if you like, the time and the place, the ascendant and the midheaven. So Zeus is on the Uranus ascendant midpoint. It's also on the Uranus. It's on the Uranus midheaven midpoint. Zeus is indeed on the Uranus Hades midpoint. So, if you like, these midpoints have Zeus has kind of nailed it. It's brought everything together, and Zeus is square Kronos. So Zeus is a planet of weaponry, explosions. Kronos is a planet of governmental power, governmental authority, and throughout the Second World War, you had this Uranus Zeus square. These are very, very slow moving points. Even now in 2023, they're still kind of in square, but at the time of Nagasaki, they were only 3 minutes apart, and Uranus and Zeus and Kronos were linking Uranus and Hades with the ascendant and the midheaven. So when looking at the Nagasaki chart, I'm not entirely satisfied that I have established that this is a good chart to illustrate astrology or something like a bombing, but I do think that the activity of Zeus and Kronos particularly hitting the Uranus ascendant midpoint, are really descriptive of what happened. And it's also worth noting that Zeus is that the planet Hades is exactly on the ascendant midheaven midpoint. So I know it's not entirely convincing, but I thought I would share with you my efforts to work with the horoscope for the bombing of Nagasaki, and I would urge you to experiment with hypothetical planets. They are very weird, just completely weird, and I do find they work. Certainly, particularly Hades. Hades, I'm really sure that Hades works. And yeah, I'm very comfortable that Hades works, and I have no idea why or how it works. Well, I do have an idea, but I'm not going to talk about it now. So anyway, that's all I'm going to say for today. Thank you for listening to me. Thank you for tolerating me. And I will talk to you tomorrow.